All right, last week the market ended risk off going into a shortened trading week this week, with the 4th of July being this Thursday. The markets will be off, so there's going to be less trading days. Now, the SPY was moving back up, but it was moving back up today on 50% less volume, which means that there is bearish divergence between the price and the volume. When something is really bullish, it's going to be going up in price, up in volume, and up in momentum. Momentum measures acceleration. We look at the RSI, the relative strength oscillator index, to determine that. So we don't have the perfect trifecta of strength going into this week, but people are beginning to buy again, taking light positions on lower volume, and we're at the top of the range on the SPY. And so the question that we've got to ask is, by the end of this week, are things going to be falling apart? Are we going to continue our journey down? Well, you might be hearing it that 4th of July, the first 10 days of July are some of the strongest trading up days historically for the market. July is typically a pretty good month. After that, August and September begin to cool off a little bit, and if the market wants to continue, it picks up the pace again October, November, and December going into the end of this year. So that brings us to the question. SPY's going up. Last week we ended the week, obviously some profit taking. They wanted to close the quarter out taking some profits. They wanted to go into this holiday week with less risk. But the question is, are we going to continue the downtrend, or are we going to have a truly strong July? Well, I'm going to look for clues in the charts. I'm going to go through a handful of charts. We've got to cover Tesla, which has absolutely been killing it, breaking above 200. And I'm just going to remind you guys that for months and months, I've been telling you, buy Tesla under 200. Any day that you can buy Tesla under 200 is a good day. Well, it's been paying off, and we've been pushing up against areas of resistance. I'm going to show you in the charts. Of course, people aren't used to it going up, and so when it goes up, they think, well, it's not going to keep going up, and so they start taking profits really early. Well, I'm going to give you guys a view of where I think resistance is going to hit, because I don't think that we are going to just continue up from here. I do believe that we're going to have to come back and test some levels and see if they hold. One of the most important levels that we will test very likely before climbing higher to 220 or 240 is simply 200. So I'm going to show you guys my thoughts of Tesla in the charts here in just a minute. We've got to talk about Nvidia a little bit. Nvidia, of course, it blew up all the way to 140, came down like a rocket ship. People got caught up at higher prices. Well, we finally have begun to move back up. We've gotten some positive buy signals on the daily time frame and 4-hour time frame and 2-hour time frame, but we're at a place where it's a decision time for Nvidia. I'm going to show you guys what I think might happen and the opportunity in Nvidia. And of course, we've got to talk about Bitcoin. I left you guys Friday with 2 scenarios, and actually, even though one of them was for the price to move down, I actually commented that even if we did that, the structure that we're currently in is a bullish structure, which is ultimately pointing to the upside. And sure enough, the market actually did the first choice, which was for it to recover back to 63,000, giving us that tail that we needed, and we could possibly move on from here. Well, one of the biggest benefactors of that bullishness in Bitcoin over the weekend was Mara, finally breaking out. I'm going to show you guys that chart. So we've got a lot of charts to cover. This is the Stocks with Josh show. Glad you're here. Hit that like, drop a heart in the comments and just say hi, and hit that subscribe to keep getting market updates and hot technicals on top big tech plays and small cap and crypto and everything else that we cover here. All right, first I just want to share a news story with you guys about July's historic bullishness. Let's go look at that real quick. Okay, the market generally performs better in early July than any other part of the year. So this is one of the very best months of the year, and I just wanted you guys to see this chart. First half of July, typically the strongest 10 days of the year. The second half of September, typically the worst 2 weeks of the year. And it just goes over the fact that 2019 up 1.4% roughly, 2020 up 3.97%, 2021 up 1.4% approximately, 2022 2.28%, and 2023 1.79%. Well, that sounds extremely bullish, and that's kind of exciting until you go look at the SPY chart, because it doesn't take much for things to be slightly different. And this has a 68% success rate, which means that largely 32% of the time, July, the first 2 weeks of July, is not going to be bullish. So let's go look at the SPY and kind of figure out if that's the case this time around. Well, this is what I see right now in the SPY, guys. We talked about it last week. We hit this 550 twice. The second candle's a gravestone doji, and the most important thing that I want you guys to see is that we're at the top of the range going into this July, and so there may not be a lot of room for this to go up higher unless it were to break to the upside, which if it did that over the course of the next 2 weeks, I actually would consider that as a huge opportunity to get ready to short this market because it would look like a blow-off top to me. Now, so I just wanted you to see that in trading, in technicals, there's always a lot to look at because you got to look at both sides of the scenario, both the bull and the bear story, because they're both meeting up on Wall Street to fight to the death each and every day over the overall market and all of our favorite stocks. And so because we're at the top of the range, I've talked about it before, we've got reducing volume, we've got reducing momentum, we've got to watch our positions and be careful to not stay in them too long, especially if you're in a swing trade, because there's a lot of risk here at the top of the SPY for big tech and a lot of our favorite companies. Now, even though this candle started off nicely today, we got to watch and see where it goes. I can tell you right now, the trigger for a move down is going to be 544. Doesn't mean that we can't move up a little bit here tomorrow. I'd be watching Wednesday going into 4th of July. That same scenario where people will be wanting to go risk off into the long weekend will come right back to bite the markets. Okay, let's take a look at Nvidia. I wanted you guys to see what I'm identifying there. I said to you guys that we ultimately wanted to get into Nvidia between 121 and 118, that was going to be the perfect buy-in price for a risk scenario after we made this initial push up to 127. Well, we got that today, and like rocket ships, the candle that we got gave us this long big tail, which is very, very bullish. Now, here's what I want you to understand about Nvidia, because it's not going to just be handed to us off of one candle. The price point that we've got to close above is going to be $124.50. Now, we ended today at $124.30. Now, I am in calls, and I did hold them overnight, and I'm hoping that this candle that's looking pretty bullish is going to continue back up to around 126, 127. We've got resistance at 127, but if we can close above that, then there's room all the way back up to $132. Now, the reason why it's struggling right here is because people are in a state of panic. They're caught at a higher price, and they're just waiting for it to come up a little bit so they can quickly sell their bags and get out of it. A lot of people have been caught in Nvidia right now when it made that massive explosive move up from $128 to $140, and now they're trying to protect themselves and get out if it comes up to their price. And so it's doing a lot of starting and stopping as it's slowly moving higher. Now, if we lose 124.50 and we close a weekly candle beneath it, then we're going to begin to make that move down. And where would the down move be? It would be all the way back here at $111. And so I'm going to repeat it, guys. We are between the price range of 124 and right now between 132. And so you've got to be careful in these positions. They really can turn either way. The call options that I got into today, I'm going to want to try to get out of them on Wednesday before going into the long weekend. That's currently how I'm viewing it. I think that we can continue to go up on a lot of stocks on lower volume throughout this week. All right, let's check out the big winner of the day, and that's Tesla. So on the big picture view of Tesla, I want you guys to see that we are underneath this descending line of resistance. And even though Tesla's had this incredible, beautiful move up all the way from 140, now all the way up here at around 212, 213, the fact is we've moved all the way up to test a descending line of resistance. We came up and we ended today at that line. Now, the big question is, do we have enough momentum after having touched it just one time to push through and move all the way up to 220, 240, 250? I wouldn't guess so. I would imagine that there's going to be the opportunity for this to come back and test the lower level of at least 200 before climbing higher. I want to remind you that even though I think Tesla's got so much going for it, especially as we get into the end of this year and get some rate cuts, I really believe that Tesla is rate sensitive because the company is currently being judged almost entirely on being a car company, and cars have a harder time selling in a high interest rate environment. They will sell better when that interest rate begins to come down, and so I think that it's still under pressure. But this is an incredible reminder to you guys of what we've been talking about on this page for months and months and months, that at some point Tesla was going to break out, and that when it does, it can move super fast. It trains you to get used to this slow, beat down price until one day it reminds you of why it's a significant company when it explodes up $10 like it's done in the last couple days. So you guys can see that way up here at 250 is the real resistance line for Tesla. That's when it's coming up against its most significant resistance, but it's up against this other resistance line that I've drawn, this descending line of resistance. It has to overcome that right now. And I would imagine that it's going to make another attempt at it this week, which means that even though we came up and kissed it today, we're probably going to attempt to push through it and probably get a rejection wick. Now, I'm going to tell you guys that when this, or if this does come back beneath 200, I'm going to share something with you I've shared many times. I want to remind you, it's making this move up all the way to $213 on really just the EV company side of things. Wait until Elon begins to have robots to show the world that he has a timeline, that he's going to begin to bring it to market. The FOMO on Tesla is going to be like nothing you've ever seen on Wall Street before, because this guy threw out a $13 trillion market cap on this company, and the fear, the uncertainty, and doubt is going to quickly fade when he shows that he can deliver on this. It doesn't mean that Wall Street needs to see the entire thing come to pass. Wall Street trades in advance, and so if he can just bring some of it to market, this stock can absolutely explode. And I'm just going to say it for the third time in this video. Every time I get an opportunity to buy Tesla under $200, I'm thrilled about it because I'm thinking about that opportunity that's potentially ahead of us. So if we do collapse and we do get rejected at this area of resistance that I've drawn on the screen, then where will this thing come back to? Largely, it's got the most support at $189, but I think that for sure that we've got to find support and bounce off at 200. Just keeping it broad today. Keep your eye on Tesla. It's still on the move this week. I have a high target of around 215 right now. That's potential for it to get tested, maybe going into Wednesday. Let's see how it all plays out. And let's talk about Bitcoin here. We got to look at the Bitcoin chart. Guys, this is exactly what I showed you on Friday. Okay, I said that we needed to get a wick on Bitcoin and we didn't have it. And I said that we were going to make it one way or the other, that we were either going to make it by going up in price back to 63K, the middle of our bullish descending parallel channel, or we were going to close up the week and have to come down to the bottom of our channel back at 55K. I pointed out to you guys that we had this previous touch down here on the bottom and that we could possibly get one more if we closed this last Sunday out flat. Well, we didn't. We climbed all the way back up to 63K, and I've also talked to you about two scenarios that we're watching on the Bitcoin chart. One of them is this bullish descending channel, which typically breaks to the upside. The other one is an inverse head and shoulders pattern. That gave us the other shoulder right where the price was at 60K, and so there was the opportunity for the markets to bounce right there, and that's what it did. Now, what it really affected or impacted was Mara. Let's go check out Mara. Okay, the last time I covered Mara, I drew this big fat yellow line right here at $18, telling you guys that we were sitting on significant support, and if Bitcoin moved, Mara would move more, and we got an absolutely monstrous candle today and a new buy signal on the daily time frame, pushing us all the way up to resistance right at $23. Now, I'm going to keep this very simple for you guys. If Bitcoin moves back up to 66K, which is where I think it could move if it continues in this bullish trend, we got to see how it performs when it gets back to 66K. But if it moves up to 66K, it means that we're going to see Mara continue to pump and push into this resistance area, and the top area that I could see it getting right now would be all the way up to $25. And so Mara is going to still continue to trend hot as long as Bitcoin continues to climb. It turned out to be a great play. I hope you guys took that. On that note, I'm dropping technicals, answering questions, and giving hot plays in the Stocks with Josh Discord. It's got to be one of the fastest growing communities right now, a very helpful community with a ton of people who are lending a hand to each other and sharing trade ideas every single day. I want you guys to check it out. I'm gonna leave a link in the top pinned comment. Take control of your trading and start learning how to interpret these charts better by joining us at the Chart Goat University. All right, that wraps things up. You'll find me every single morning in the Discord giving plays, sharing technicals, and answering questions. Let's hope together that the next 2 weeks fits the pattern of July bullishness. If not, we're prepared either way. Hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.